that it is more likely than not that if somebody had just gone up and tried the door handle, they could have opened it without a key.
Burroughs denouncing the disinformation following the mass shooting.
Who knew what, when, and how it flowed was clearly issues and has created some problems. And the back part of the report certainly does touch on that.
The report says law enforcement's response is filled with systemic failures. Law enforcement didn't follow their active shooter training and put their own safety first. 376 law enforcement officials had responded to the shooting. 19 children and 2 teachers were fatally shot. Jury selection is set to begin Monday in the trial of former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, who faces criminal contempt of Congress charges for refusing to cooperate for months with the January 6th House Select Committee. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Is your business ready for digital transformation? The latest Wi-Fi technology is here, and it's Docomo Pacific's WorkPass, powered by Plume. WorkPass unlocks connectivity, productivity, and security tools all in the palm of your hand. Access features like adaptive Wi-Fi, guest and employee networks, evolving AI security, plus so much more. To learn more about WorkPass, visit business.docomopacific.com. Docomo Pacific Business. Work better together.
Multiple shark bites and sightings happening along New York's Long Island over the past few weeks.
The shark fin sighting prompted local officials in Nassau County to close several beaches to swimmers. Each summer, there are reports of shark sightings along New York's Long Island, but shark attacks are extremely rare, and there have been several here these last few weeks. In Suffolk County, first a 41-year-old man was knocked off his paddleboard by a sand tiger shark, which then bit him on the leg. Later in the day, a 49-year-old man along Seaview Beach was chomped on the left wrist and backside. In New York, Laura Engel, Fox News.
In response to the Biden administration's border policies, Texas and Arizona have been busing migrants to the nation's capital. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser tells CBS's Face the Nation that more needs to be done to curb the situation.
Well, local taxpayers are not picking up the tab and should not pick up the tab. And we really need a coordinated federal response. We know that it's done for refugees who come to the states from all points of the world, and the same has to be done in this situation.
Skittles facing a lawsuit regarding whether their candies are fit for consumption.
A class action lawsuit was filed Thursday in California against candy manufacturer Mars, claiming the makers of Skittles were aware of a known toxin that makes the rainbow candies unfit to eat. Attorneys say that Skittles were unsafe for consumers because of heightened levels of titanium dioxide as a food additive. The compound is used to create the artificial rainbow colors, but the European Union recently banned titanium dioxide after a food safety regulator deemed it unsafe because of genotoxicity, or the ability to change DNA. Mars had said in a 2016 press release that they intended to remove titanium dioxide from their products. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages for fraud.
That's Fox's Matt Napolitano. I'm Laura Cantor, and this is Fox News.
Your everyday expenses could be earning you savings and rewards with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points at Shell, Foodies Guam, and IT&E. Want free fuel from Shell and free snacks from Foodies Guam? Sign up for Pacific Points. Want to save on your home internet and cell phone bill? Claim bill rebates and free prepaid cards at IT&E. Want to save on travel costs? Convert points to United Mileage Plus miles. Sign up for free at PacificPoints.com or download the app. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Hafa Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, a right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Jose, it really feels good to be sitting in front of a microphone and a camera and mumbling those immortal words again at the beginning of a whole new week.
It's almost like home.
It is. It's a great feeling. Well, let me go straight to Zemi and Cottney. Unfortunately, we've got the usual stuff for substitute for an editorial in the Daily News. Here it goes. Our view. You aren't alone. Call 988 to reach Guam's new Health Lifeline Center. Guam and the nation on Saturday officially launched the new 988 dialing code for mental health crises and suicide prevention services. It's like 911, but with a different kind of help for a different kind of emergency. Aside from a virus that attacked many of us physically, the Wuhan virus pandemic also brought with it unforeseen effects on our social, emotional, and mental well-being. Effects difficult to treat in a socially distanced world. But as we all wait for pandemic restrictions to subside on Guam, the Behavioral Health and Wellness Center continues working to improve its ability to serve its clients and the community at large. Well, they have lawyers over there at the Behavior and Wellness Center. If they've got clients, they must have lawyers, huh? From the recent launch of the department's mobile crisis response team, which can dispatch a mental health professional alongside other publicly safe responders to emergencies, to the Hafatatat Manuhao Community Wellness Check Program, which provided emotional support for the individuals with Wuhan virus, the Guam Behavioral Health is making progress in standing up the services needed by the island's most vulnerable citizens. As we continue to work to replace the stigma of mental health illness with research, treatment, and progress, there still remains work to be done on the behavioral health front. The good news is that Guam's mental health experts and frontline workers are taking advantage of every opportunity, grant, and federal relief dollar to bring important programs and services to our community. We applaud Guam's mental health professionals for the progress they're making, not just at the public agency level, but for the work and partnerships they engage in with the Guam Department of Education and other community organizations. Governor Leon Guerrero, in a news release, stated, "Supporting mental health is a critical public need, and one of the best ways we can do that is to make it as easy as possible for the people to get the help they need when they need it. We urge everyone in our community to learn more about services offered by the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and to spread the word about getting the support from Guam's new Healthline Center." Call 988 for mental health crisis support and suicide prevention. I guess they'd rather do this than run an editorial. It's half public service, half Lulian Guerrero campaign. It's what it amounts to.
And this is the reason why we have to dial 671.
Exactly. So there are two things I want to pick on here. The easy one is the 671. So now we have to dial 671. But if someone calls you and you get the number on caller ID and you want to just hit the call back, you can't, because you got to dial in the whole number. Now, you'd think at the very least that GTA could do would be to reprogram their system so that we could at least do that without having to dial in the 671. So GTA, if you're listening, get on it. And then the second thing is this. I gripe all the time about the fact that we used to have a federal government. Now we have a national government. Now our national government wants us to make sure that we understand that, so they've put out their own 988 number. Yeah, this is wonderful. Did you ever hear of those 50 things out there called states, national government? That West Virginia versus the United States is in a lot of ways as important as the Dobbs decision, Jose, because it really cuts back on the state, the deep state, to substitute itself for the legislature. So yeah, now we got a national government's got the 988 number. We've got a phone company that doesn't, that just changed it and did the very minimum to get out of what they were doing. And we've got a behavioral health and wellness center that runs something that's half public service announcement and then at the end winds up to be a campaign ad for Governor Leon Guerrero. I wonder if anybody wonders why I'm so down on the Daily News and their editorials. They got a blue star about what? It's almost been a month ago now. They very seldom run real editorials. They run news stories in the news hole where the editorial is supposed to be. They run crap like this and call it an editorial. And unfortunately, I can't say anything kind about the Post either, because the Post just gave up on running editorials. They haven't run an editorial for two months now. My suspicion is this. Cortec, a guy named Ho, owns the Post. And Ho has dealings with the government. He's got a huge application before Gita, for a huge tax rebate. And then he's fighting with the waterworks over that property up where the Northern Wastewater Treatment Plant is. I don't know what else he has pending with the governor, but perhaps Ho and Cortex see it in their interest as not angering the governor, who can help them out. So the way to not anger the governor with real editorials that address real subjects that real editorials would address is just to not write any editorials at all. You think that's possible, Jose?
They're doing it. They're doing no editorials at all.
Yeah.
They're being really soft on a lot of things, especially criticizing the current government.
Yeah.
What I want to say to these journalists working at all the media, the supposed media, you're doing a very huge disservice to the island of Guam by not being objective, and it's obvious to us. I mean, if you want to be an echo chamber, then come work for us.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Exactly.
But it just blows my mind that, do they do it intentionally? Do they not understand what they're doing? Or are they that obstinate about it?
They just don't care.
Just don't care. People are still buying them.
Yeah, objectivity and curiosity.
Curiosity is gone.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the card for today. Of course, we start out with Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism, and under that item, I have a card called Z versus DOL, Department of Labor. Now, if we weren't tied up here with Facebook with these copyright restrictions, every time I mention Paul Zerzan's name, I would have you play Zorro, the fox so funny, the fox so cunning and free. Zorzan always makes the sign of the Z, right? Yeah. That's Paul Zerzan from now on makes the sign of the Z. Okay, I've got that. I've got the Post, the Guam Daily Post versus Michael San Nicolas. If they're not doing their editorializing on the editorial page, they're doing it on the front page now.
And above the fold.
And above the fold, the top place in the news. I've got Jason Mays versus Vanessa Williams, and then some old stuff. Wisco versus Harvesters, Mad Black Woman versus Roe, etc. So let's start out with systemic racism. Once again, that rice is red, according to the narrative peddlers. Just like I'm wearing my red. Let's have the folks look at my red shirt, Jose. Just like I'm wearing my red shirt today, right? Yeah, it's not orange. And if you say that it's really orange, you might get canceled, like Paul Zerzan did. Classic paradigm for what's going on here in the political world. Okay, Z versus the Department of Labor. Upcoming event. This is the calendar for the Guam Civil Service Commission. Upcoming event. Paul Zerzan versus Department of Labor. Case number 22-WB01. And the Civil Service Commission will convene in person and live stream meeting on Tuesday, July 19th at 9 a.m. This meeting will take place in the CSC boardroom located at the Bell Tower Suite, etc. Okay, so that's what the meeting is about. Now, Paul Zerzan, if it doesn't go your way, I think you can move to take your case back there again, because they're giving Tuesday's notice, or maybe this came out of Sunday's paper. I don't know.
Is that the Post or PDN?
It's the Post. Or no, I'm sorry, it's the Civil Service Commission website. I didn't see it in the Post, so I got to go back and check that to see if the Post actually posted it. Okay, next item on the card then is the Guam Daily Post for Sunday, July 17. And I'm going to show you a picture of what that front page looks like. He did not help his case. That's what the front page of the Post looks like. He did not help his case. Front page above the fold. The byline is Phil Leon Guerrero, former talk show host, co-worker of mine at another radio station. And here's how it goes. He did not help his case. Bordalio's former chief of staff's delegate's response to ethics probe. Editor's note. This is the first in a two-part series covering an interview conducted with Matt Herman, a longtime congressional aide who served in a number of capacities for former Congresswoman Madeleine Bordalio, completing his decade-long tenure in 2017 as her chief of staff. So why do I care about Matt Herman? Is he on island?
Nope.
Is he a surfer?
Nope.
Does he have a talk show?
Nope.
Okay, well, here's how it goes. Well, a recent online media conference with his lawyers may have helped Delegate Michael San Nicolas have local votes in his gubernatorial bid. He also may have increased his risk of being investigated or prosecuted by the U.S. Department of Justice. That's the assessment from Matt Herman, a longtime congressional staffer who also worked for former Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo. Quote, in Guam, I get the politics of what he was doing. In D.C., he did not help his case, and he may think he doesn't have anything to worry about, but that's simply not true. He told the Daily Post from his Maryland home. Currently an advisor handling congressional matters and an adjunct faculty member teaching politics at American University, he served for a decade in Berdallo's office, eventually ending his tenure as chief of staff in 2017 when San Nicolas beat Berdallo. We don't want to mention that, though.
Let's not mention that.
No.
Wow, went all the way to Maryland to get an interview.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable.
One of the perks, I suppose, working for Berdallo for the Post. His criticism over how San Nicolas has been describing his ethics investigation was sharp. He was lying through the process and not cooperating. He told the Post, stressing the gravity of the report, admonishing San Nicolas for not cooperating with and stalling his ethics investigation. Quote, Delegate San Nicolas' overall lack of candor and diligence in cooperating when the investigating committee's investigation reflected poorly on the institution of the House and thereby brought discredit upon the House, the report found. So he had to call up this guy in Maryland to read the report to him. According to Herman, its clear message was that was being cemented into the public record. That is not a flippant statement that was just thrown in there. That is a very serious statement that came from the members of that investigative subcommittee. That didn't come from the staff, he said. It was the members who were hearing from the investigators that he dishonored them, and frankly, they felt... I got to turn the page here. They felt, but didn't say it this way, that he lied. We had to call Matt Herman to find that out, right? What's the best way to send the message, impact our elections, and make everybody in Congress be like, oh my gosh, whether they're violating my due process or not, I better just roll over and do what they're telling me to do. Otherwise, they might do what they did to San Nicolas and drop all of this 60 days before election, the delegate said during his news conference held June 28. So it's good that we got Matt Herman to rebut what San Nicolas said, right?
Again, the guy who used to work for Berdallo, who was beat by MSN in 2017.
Yeah. Herman called the conspiracy theory presented by San Nicolas pure spin. No, that's a really
As opposed to,
yeah.
No, this couldn't be spin.
No. And said voters should not dismiss the weight of the committee's findings, but rather they should dismiss San Nicolas' attempt to evade them. That is just not how the process operates. It's independent of the House leadership. These staff are all lawyers. They're very highly trained, well-paid lawyers who take their job very seriously, because the Ethics Committee is really the last stop to making sure members of the House conduct themselves in an ethical manner. To attack that process is not helping his cause, and it's wrong.
This is the same body that's doing January 6 hearings, just to remind everybody.
Exactly. And this ethics committee said, you're coming to a deposition, leave counsel behind. Remember that?
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's substantial evidence causing us to back up our report. So, that's heavy, 70, the lowest possible standard. We're not going to find culpability. We're going to send this to the Justice Department because the average person, whoa, that sounds really heavy. Not to mention, but don't mention the fact that this smart-ass talk show host over in Guam is betting dollars to donuts that justice won't go for an indictment because a prosecutor would never go for indictment on the basis of substantial evidence.
They're already covering those tracks, Bob. Now they're saying, well, he's small potatoes because they're just Guam, so more than likely they're not going to.
Yeah, right. Okay. According to Herman, the people of Guam are now faced with a serious matter of having their lone delegate to the House of Representatives under the specter of the consequences from evidence gathered in his ethics investigation. It's a problem made worse now that it's been forwarded to federal law enforcement authorities. If you know there's a statute of limitations, you want to get this over to the authorities that are going to prosecute it before that statute of limitation comes up. I don't have insight as to what the next steps of DOJ might be. He said, rest assured, from a D.C. perspective, everything that the delegate has done is not helping his case in D.C. It may be great politics in Guam, but it's not well received in Washington by Matt Herman. Beep, beep. After 2 years of interviews and investigations, the Bipartisan Office of Congressional Ethics unanimously voted to approve the findings of the inquiry and forwarded it to U.S. DOJ, in part because impending statutes of limitations may preclude the prosecution of certain crimes the delegate may have committed after 2023 or 2024. It's not common for the Health Ethics Committee to refer something to DOJ, Herman said. Members of Congress generally like to take care of business within the House. And in this case, they felt that there was significant wrongdoing that required further effort by DOJ to bring justice to this matter. I wonder, it's too bad they don't put a picture of this guy in here to see if he's saying this with a straight face. It took a few moments for San Nicolas to consider when asked by the Post during his media conference if there's evidence in the report for which he would apologize or take responsibility.
That's a weird kind of narrative.
Took him a few minutes. Yeah, it took him a little while, right? Yeah. I really can't think of anything right now, he said. What are you going to apologize for when you haven't been charged with anything and you haven't been found guilty of anything? While the OCE report sent to Justice for further action doesn't use the word guilty, investigators in the committee unanimously agreed the inquiry shows there was, quote, substantial evidence. Now, you guys with Law and Order notebooks, you know that's just a way of fooling the public. You could have said there wasn't guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The evidence didn't show guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. There was not clear and convincing evidence that San Nicolas had committed misconduct. There wasn't even a preponderance of evidence that showed that. All we got was substantial evidence. You couldn't say that. And then there are 4 bullet points that I'm not going to repeat. So we got to take a break. I've got a lot of commentary on this. Let's see, I've got our Keith I'll let our Keith talk first. He'll probably make more sense than I do. He's a really good caller.
Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing the point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, before I give our Keith the microphone here, I noticed in this copy of the edition of the Post, there's an ad, and the ad says, hatchets for sale. Used hatchets, like new. Never used to chop anything hard, only used on politicians for hatchet jobs. Contact Phil Leon Guerrero at the Guam Daily Post. Okay, Keith, you got a hatchet job there you want to lay on us, or are you?
That was funny. I got to give you credit for that. You know, if I didn't know better, I'd swear that the way he's being treated, that Michael St. Nicholas is a Republican, because this is what the Democrat Party does. They can't run fair elections. They can't run fair campaigns. So what they do is they fling enough mud at someone. Who cares if it's true or not? It doesn't really matter. But they and their media allies, and make no mistake, the Guam Daily Post and the Guam Daily News are simply two sides of the same TAS coin. They are shills for the governor, and the UOG Underwood mob. This is just a complete hatchet job, and anyone who doesn't see it, I feel sorry for. I'm very glad that Jose brought up the point that this House Ethics Committee, pardon me while I laugh, is the same bunch that's that's conducting the circus on the January 6th investigation. And if there's anybody that can pump up Much Ado About Nothing and turn it into a media circus, it's certainly them. It's sad. It really is. And the reason I think that they're going after Michael St. Nicholas is he's not a hard lefty. He is a centrist Democrat. He's one of the few that I would actually ever consider voting for. And, the governor, of course, is, well, I don't need you to expound on what the governor is. But she's a member of the progressive left. And so, therefore, the media is all for her. And anyone that poses a threat, which on Guam, unfortunately, is not the Republican Party, is going to get this treatment. And this is the same dirty politics that they play on the mainland. So, it's just disappointing, but not surprising. So Michael St. Nicholas, if you're listening, congratulations. You know now what it feels like to be a Republican.
Thank you, R. Keith. Yeah, R. Keith usually nails it, doesn't he? Yeah, so this is a hatchet job, plain and simple. Now, if you examine journalistic ethics, it didn't used to be, when you said journalistic ethics, people didn't used to say, but that's an oxymoron.
This just in, Merriam-Webster has announced they've now deleted that phrase from the dictionary.
Oxymoron. Yeah.
No, journalistic ethics.
Journalistic ethics, yeah. So there is such a thing. And one of the things that has an ethical dimension is what's called the gatekeeper function for folks in journalism. What actually makes the paper and what doesn't make the paper? What's news and what isn't news? This is not news. No matter how you slice it, it is not news. What did Matt Herman do? What is the precipitating event here? Did Matt Herman get hit by a car on Marine Corps Drive?
Nope.
Is Matt Herman's name a household word on Guam?
Nope.
Did even I recognize it when I saw it?
Nope.
No. So where did this story come from? Did Matt Herman, was he so upset about this that he flew out here and toted a cart from the airport all the way to the office of the Post to draw attention to himself so he could lay these immortal words on us?
Nope.
How did this story get in the newspaper? What did Matt Herman do to get this kind of coverage on the front page above the post, above the fold of the Post? It's not easy to get your name in the paper. Sometimes even I can't do it when I've got really news. As a matter of fact, all of this stuff about the insular cases, if you're not singing the right song, it's damn near impossible to get it into the paper because everybody knows the insular cases are racist and they got to be overruled.
You know, if this was an editorial decision, they could at least given it to a reporter that didn't just come out from the administration.
And that's another interesting thing, isn't it? Yeah, that Phil just came out of the Leon Guerrero administration. Yeah, so it's a hatchet job. The reporter, former member of the administration. There's absolutely no reason for this to be in the paper at all. Now, how did it get in the paper? Well, I can only speculate, and I do that from time to time. And here's my speculation. I don't know if this happened or not. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But this could have happened. They're sitting around in the newsroom at the Post, and somebody says, you know, San Nicolas is too strong. We got to do something to take him down. Yeah, well, there's that host ethics thing, you know. We got to hit him on that one again. Yeah, but there's nothing going on in that. He had his press conference. He talked about it. We covered that. Nothing has come out of the House Ethics Committee, and I suspect nothing will. Nothing has come out of the U.S. Department of Justice, so how do we get it in the paper? Well, let me think. Hey, I got an idea. You know, San Nicolas had a tremendous upset victory over Madeline Bordallo. And I suspect that still doesn't sit very well with her. Maybe we could call Madeline Bordallo and get her to comment on this. I got her number. Yeah, let me give her a call. 15 minutes later, Madeline says, I don't do stuff like that. But you know what you could do? You could call my former chief of staff and see, because the last time I saw him, he had this huge bag of sour grapes that he was carrying around, munching on every time somebody mentioned San Nicolas's name. Here's his phone number. Yeah, okay, what's his name? His name is Matt Herman. Yeah, we'll give him a call. Yeah. Hello, Mr. Herman. Yeah, this is Phil Leon Guerrero. I'm a reporter for the Guam Daily Post, and I'm writing a story about Michael San Nicolas. And I was wondering if you got any dirt on Michael I'm sorry. I was wondering if I could interview you for a story here. Now, this is what Michael did. How does that sit with isn't it, he probably didn't use leading questions like a lawyer would. Isn't it true that what Michael did is really put him in a bad position with Congress? He didn't use that. But he might just as well have, the way this story came out. That could have happened.
And by the way, can we have your biography in case nobody remembers who you are or knows?
Really. We won't say anything at all about the sour grapes, Matt. And we won't mention in the story that your tenure with Madeline Berdaglio ended when Madeline got beat. And we're not even going to say boo about the fact that some of the pundits say that the reason Madeline got beat was because she fumbled the war claims bill so bad. And that's the reason that she got beat. Now, we won't mention that as the chief of staff, that's kind of your bailiwick. You know, if the bill got fumbled, some of that's got to splash up. But we're not going to mention. I'm not going to mention that in this article here, Matt. You think that could have happened, Jose?
Could have. It leaves it wide open for speculation.
Yeah, because there's
all the parties involved.
How else would this get to the front page unless Phil Leon Guerrero went out and dug it up? I just don't see Matt Herman calling up and saying, I got a great idea for your Sunday Post, Phil. You got a pencil handy? No, I don't, because I'd never seen him quoted in the paper before. He's almost the man who never was. You remember the guy that the Brits, the corpse that the Brits threw in the Mediterranean Sea with secret plans for the invasion of Sicily, and the Germans picked it up and thought it was correct? Yeah, the man who never was, Matt Herman. And by the way, I got it wrong. I said D-Day and Calais when I was relating this. Actually, it was the invasion of Sicily. It was a deception.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyhow, here's Matt Herman, the man who never was, goes from complete obscurity to above the fold on the front page of the Daily News, doing a hatchet job on Michael San Nicolas. Now, I did a pretty good analysis of Michael and his press conference. You remember, I gave him extremely high marks for being a political tactician. And I also went into what I considered to be the legal analysis of the way the House Ethics Committee handled it. And in that particular case, you had to remember that the first word of analysis is anal, because it was a pretty anal investigation. You can't bring your lawyer along. We're not going to make any findings. We're not going to rule on this, but we're going to use the phrase substantial evidence because that'll take everybody in, and then send it to the justice. Whoa, where's that music? So we're going to send it to the Justice Department. Da, da, da. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So if there are merits to what San Nicolas is accused of, and I'm not going to say there aren't, but I've mentioned on the show more than once that most people have given the choice in any kind of a tribunal, whether it's a hearing, a court case, an administrative hearing, a hearing before a board or commission. If given the choice, if we could figure out how to always come out with absolutely correct results on the one hand, or we would engage in apparently fair procedures on the other, 99% of the people would say, I want apparently fair procedures. Somebody guaranteeing that the results are correct. I want to see it. And in order for apparently fair procedures, there's some things you need. Notice, charges, opportunity to be heard, ability to cross-examine, ability to subpoena witnesses, maybe some kind of an appeal. San Nicolas didn't get any of that. This was just a star chamber procedure where he couldn't even bring his lawyer to his deposition. It's as bad as this January 6th thing. You know, that is such a joke. They put people in a little room, and then they film the deposition, and then they run edited copies of that deposition on a big screen. So you don't know what people said in there.
Well, this is the latest that's coming out of the January 6 hearings. The product placement of Diet Dr. Pepper. Just really great, gripping, breaking news.
Yeah. And it's so obvious that the whole purpose of that thing is to pin the tail on Donald Trump. There's nothing else is involved. And if they aren't able to do that, they will see it as a huge failure. Well, here it's the Daily Post. Phil Leon Guerrero's job to pin the tail on Michael San Nicolas. They went all the way to Maryland to find somebody. Maybe they put another, let me see if there's wanted people who will sit for an interview and trash Michael San Nicolas. Call Phil Leon Guerrero at the Daily Post. They didn't get anybody that way. So they probably tried Hawaii, California. They finally wound up in Maryland before they found this guy, Herman.
Well, all the fake profiles on Facebook obviously aren't working that well.
Yeah.
Because someone bought a firm somewhere, I don't know if it's here on Guam, to create lots of fake pages and profiles.
Yeah.
It's been flooding Facebook for the past, I want to say, 5 days or so.
Any particular candidate?
The only one that seems to be in the spotlight is all the negative San Nicolas news.
Yeah.
Every single one of these pages. There's about 10 of them.
The black arts of political campaigns. Okay, now, going back here, to me, the real enemy here, the real wrongdoer is the Post, and this so really falls in line with no more editorials, favoring one candidate in such an obvious fashion as they're doing. Now, newspapers are supposed to write negative things about people if it comes to their attention, and it's newsworthy. Now the fact that Michael San Nicolas doesn't change his skivvy drawers every day,
That's part two.
Even if they had two sources, and somebody from his laundry, could just lay that out clearly that Michael San Nicolas occasionally presented himself to the House of Representatives wearing dirty skivvies. Even if it's true, it's just not news. It's just not relevant. So if there are things that are negative about Michael San Nicolas, by all means, run them. But first of all, they have to be news. The fact that you found somebody who's probably suffering from a severe case of sour grapes that'll badmouth him, how does that get past the gatekeeper function? And then there isn't even any room for a response from Michael San Nicolas. You just went back and used what you had on him already, and even that you had to corrupt by saying it took a few moments for San Nicolas to consider.
It would have been appropriate if the beginning was, what's this guy's name?
Matt Herman.
Matt Herman jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah.
Then I would have accepted that description of Mike San Nicolas.
Now, if the story had started out, Matt Herman, former chief of staff for Madeline Bordallo, called the Post on Friday and said that he wanted to set the record straight, etc., I might feel a little differently about it. Here's how it started. While a recent online media conference with his lawyers may have helped San Nicolas save votes in his current gubernatorial bid, it really tells you what the story's about. It's about votes. He also may have increased his risk of being investigated or prosecuted by the U.S. Department of Justice. That's the assessment from Matt Herman. Yeah, who works for the Post? Yeah, did the Post hire him to do this? Will the next iteration here be the Matt Herman Speaks column, right in there with Betanzas and Sauter on Sundays? And yeah, okay, let's take a short break, and I'll try to wrap this up, but it's hard.
Candid, The Point, and the Guam Daily Post are proud to present another Platform 2022 debate. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Lieutenant Governor candidate Sabrina Salas Matanani. Phil Leon Guerrero and Montesilva Tyron will present topics and issues of concern to every Guamanian. July 20th at 6 p.m. everywhere. Broadcast, simulcast, and webcast on Facebook, Candid News, and on the air at 93.3 FM and on KGTF. Platform 2022 from Candid, the Guam Daily Post, and 93.3 The Point.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
So if you read this article, this would be the last thing that you read, the end of the article. While the OCE, Office of Congressional Ethics report, sent to justice for further action doesn't use the word guilty. Investigators in the committee unanimously agreed the inquiry shows there was substantial evidence. I don't have to beat that drum again, do I, Jose? San Nicolas, 1, accepted improper or excessive $10,000 campaign contribution, $9,000 of which was eventually refunded. 2, engaged in a conspiracy to hide the proceeds of the illicit campaign contribution. 3, knowingly caused his campaign committee to file false or incomplete reports with the Federal Election Commission. 4, attempted to interfere with the ethics investigation by causing his congressional staff to contact a likely witness to persuade the witness. So that's the last thing you see. So it's just one complete hatchet job from top to bottom. Here's one more thing. This ad was paid for by, this ad was paid for me, and I approve this ad, Governor Leon Guerrero. It's not quite an ad, but it could be.
So if you don't die, you'll live.
Yeah. How long do you want to see stuff like this run in the newspaper, Governor?
Forever!
Now, this ought to work against the Post. It really ought to work against the Post. And it should not help the governor. It shouldn't help San Nicolas either. And in my analysis, I went through, the technical aspects of the House Ethics Committee. I gave San Nicolas really high marks for being a good political tactician, but I said, still, he's probably going to lose because there are so many good sound bites out there floating around that the folks in the Leon Guerrero campaign in the Black Arts Department will be able to keep throwing out over and over again. It's going to be hard for San Nicolas to overcome that, especially when stuff like this, it comes out in the Leon Guerrero campaign newsletter. Oh, wait. It's not the Leon Guerrero campaign newsletter. It's a newspaper. But there's really no difference here whatsoever. Yeah, so it's a disappointment. Before the break, Jose, I was starting to say that, when Mindy took over the Post, they had some really good players. They're really good newspaper people, folks that had migrated from the Daily News, including the former publisher of the Daily News, Lee Weber. And they were putting out a really good product. They were doing good news, and they had some real hard-hitting, real editorials. In fact, they had so many editorials that they're leading the parade right now, even though they haven't done it for 2 months. 262 Post editorials to 80 Daily News editorials. So, they were stepping up to the plate and whacking that ball for extra bases almost every time and a home run about once a week. And now, man, the best they can do is get hit by a pitched ball. Sometimes they come to the plate, they don't even bring a bat with them because they're not going to swing at anything. Why would they need a bat? Shame on you, Guam Daily Post, for running something like this. All right. Yeah. Okay, we got a few minutes up until the big halftime show here. I got the next item on the card is Jaron Mays versus Vanessa Williams. You can guess what that's about. But before I go there, I don't want to start up and then break for the show. I'm just going to see who's saying what on Facebook, and then we'll come back to that item right after the big halftime show. Well, Lonnie Salas remembers that MSN did beat Madeline Bradale, and he beat Robert Underwood, too. So probably for the Democrats, horrible, mortal sins, beating the grand old man and the grand old lady of the Democrat Party. What does Greta say about stuff like that?
How dare you?
Yeah, it's a definite how dare you. And then Gina Marie Tenorio says, Tenorio Call says, this is all getting old. Rehashing the whole ethics committee investigation when it was closed with no charges and therefore no guilt. Let the DOJ what they will do and move on. Innocent until proven guilty everywhere except in the Guam Daily Post. Yeah. Yeah. Lanny Salas, the 19th floor and procurement of a hotel or ethics commission against Congressman MSN. Yeah. And then Gina Tenorio Call, millions of dollars over 9,000. You know, the DOJ really wants to hang. And let's see. MSN should settle this once and for all like a gentleman. Pistols or rapiers at dawn.
Or pillowcases filled with cotton candy.
Yeah. Extensions of little fingers to be battered by wet noodles.
All the way from Maryland.
Yeah. Yeah, with the exorbitant amount of all-in campaign ads, the multiple fake Facebook pages, and profiling, throwing negative shade on MSN and the hatchet job in the prime media, could be that Michael San Nicolas has Governor Leon Guerrero sweating bullets. It's cruelly over the top. Sure enough, Jose. Okay, let's break for the big halftime show. We're going to come back to the hopeless screen test right after the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
A hero in Indiana. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. A gunman opening fire near a food court in a suburban Indianapolis shopping mall Sunday, killing 3 people and injuring 2 others. Greenwood, Indiana Chief of Police Jim Eisen praised the 22-year-old bystander who shot and killed the gunman.
The real hero of the day is the citizen that was lawfully carrying a firearm in that food court and was able to stop this shooter almost as soon as he began.
Police declined to immediately reveal the identity of the gunman. Both of the injured are said to be in stable condition. One of them is a 12-year-old girl. A Texas House investigative committee released a preliminary report Sunday on law enforcement's response to the Robb Elementary School mass shooting in Uvalde. Fox's Casey Stiegel is there with the latest.
376 to be exact showed up here at Robb Elementary School. Surveillance video obtained by the Austin American-Statesman newspaper and KVUE TV shows the mass of officers gathering in the hallway. The report questions, with so many there and the, quote, lack of a strong incident commander, why nobody else with a higher rank or more training didn't step up sooner. The gunman entered Robb Elementary at 11:33. It wasn't until 12:50 until he was taken down.
With COVID cases on the rise, White House COVID-19 response coordinator Dr. Ashish Shah giving an update on the highly transmittable Omicron subvariant BA.5.
As you heard from Dr. Fauci, it is the most immune evasive. What that means in practical terms is that if you were infected 3-4 months ago, you can get reinfected. We're seeing high levels of reinfection. We're seeing people who are not up to date on their vaccines have a lot of breakthrough infections.
Dr. Shah on ABC's This Week. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for Uno Go wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase IT&E prepaid load, and pay your monthly IT&E bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Customs and Border Protection says there was an increase of 62% in the number of cocaine seizures in June compared to last year. Fox's Matt Finn has more from Eagle Pass, Texas.
Border Patrol announcing the seizure of nearly $700,000 of cocaine in a single bus this week in Laredo, Texas. Agents say a drug-sniffing dog discovered the cocaine that was hidden in a tractor trailer with a shipment of air conditioning parts from Mexico. And the U.S. government just released numbers saying cocaine busts were up 25% in June compared to May. Also, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol has opened a massive new facility here in Eagle Pass, Texas, primarily to quickly process migrants in U.S. Border Patrol custody.
The White House says they are working with Colombia to manage illicit trafficking of cocaine. An Associated Press survey of state election officials across the country found no major problems with ballot drop boxes in 2020. Ukraine's President Zelensky has fired 2 senior members of his administration, including the head of the Security Service of Ukraine, as he looks to expel officials that are suspected of treason. A Marvel sequel is #1 at the weekend box office.
Thor: Love and Thunder conquers the box office for a second straight weekend.
Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man. He was a god.
The film with 46 million in domestic ticket sales. Minions: The Rise of Gru comes in at #2. Universal's animated sequel bringing in $26 million. A new release in 3rd place after a better-than-expected box office take. Sony Pictures' Where the Crawdads Sing with 17 million in ticket sales.
That's Fox's Kathleen Maloney. I'm Laura Cantor, and this is Fox News.
Half a day. Patsy Gogui from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns the property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
We're already Pica's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better.
Announcing The Point on Alexa.
In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Okay, so here we are, the big second half of Tall Tales after that great halftime show that we all like so much. And the next event here on Tall Tales, which is always interesting, entertaining, as well as informative, is the face and voice of the separatist movement here on Guam, Hope Cristobal, or perhaps Hopeless Cristobal would be better. I jokingly refer to what we're going to, the video we're going to show you as Hope's screen test, as though she were an aspiring actress and it wants to send this video off to someone in Hollywood to see if she could start her movie career. And I kind of tongue-in-cheek said, I guess if they start making horror films again, she's got a shot at it. So with no further ado, roll it, Jose.
You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization is the same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. We need to just do different. We need to do better. Get off my island.
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest. Or what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. Yeah, that's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to yell.
I'm an indigenous Chamorro. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. You need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please pause this.
Get out of here.
Please, this is not your place.
When I get a chance, go.
Please. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Please leave. Oh, you did not know.
What happened to him?
Oh, he confronted me.
What did he
He's
say?
telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization. Hello. Hi, Mama.
We are proud of you, Auntie.
Si Diyos mangasi.
So there you have it. I've seen it obviously more than once, but I can never get over it. If I saw 1,000 times, the 1,001st time, it would still be just as extraordinary. When you watched it, her manner, how she's able to talk through those clenched teeth clenched in anger. And the stuff she says, you're a white man, you have no rights here, get off our island. She is the chairperson of the Chamorro Language Commission, and she is in the forefront of the leadership of the separatist movement here on Guam. The separatist movement, guys like Michael Bavacqua, Robert Underwood, folks like that would like to see Guam become independent from the United States, an independent country. I could only leave it to your imagination to know what it would be like to live in a country where the likes of Hope Cristobal was near the top of the governmental heap. Perhaps something that I think I could do without if given the option. I think I could miss that part pretty easily. Okay, so that's Hope. I will run this again next Monday. I run it every Monday. So if you know of people that haven't seen it yet, make sure you alert them that it'll come on every Monday right after the big halftime show. We missed a Monday a couple weeks ago, so we ran it on Tuesday.
Well, we haven't quite finished counting all the counter-protesters that she mentioned in the Pacific Times article. So. There's a Guam, where a Pacific Island Times article pointing out that she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Lisa Natividad, a professor at the University of Guam. And in the interview, Hope said that, there's a struggle here because at this very demonstration, this Black Lives Matter demonstration, there were counter-protesters, and she stood up to them. The plural.
Yeah, counter-protesters. Now that meek, mild-mannered, Walter Mitty-esque fellow that you saw with a water bottle there, that was the extent of the counter-protest, and you could see how bad that was, arson and burglary. Gee. Yeah, so many of these folks that buy into the narrative live in their own, they don't live in the same planet that we live in. They live in their own world. And if you watch Hope, you got to wonder, what planet does she live on? I can tell you this, there aren't going to be any white people on that planet, that's for sure. Okay, moving on to somebody else here that I wish I had the video for because it would be probably just as entertaining. This is Jaron Mays versus Vanessa Williams. And Jaron Mays appeared in a service that I get called Medium.com. And they pull together interesting news stories from all over the net, put them out in one place. Really interesting stuff. And this is what Jaron Mays says. And I'm going to have to just cough when I get the words that I can't say over the air. I've never been this pissed reading an article. A true piece of... It took me a minute to find the right image to describe the level of pissed I am right now. This one is perfect. this little boy's expression says, and there's a picture of a little boy, this little boy's expression says, WTF. I think you know what those letters means, right? And then Jaron says, are you serious? This is exactly how I'm feeling right now after reading what may possibly be the most disgusting piece of article I've read in my 28 years of existing on Earth. Now, I've read a lot of stories. I mean, there's an endless amount that you can look up on the internet, and it's something that's never going to end because we live in a world that's filled to the brim of psychos. I'm sure there's one of them in today's newspaper, unfortunately. But this is something that struck a nerve because it shows the level of disregard for human life in a lot of humans. One of those humans is a lady named Jemele Hill, who I guess is a Hollywood type, Jemele Hill. For those of you who don't watch sports television, she was a respected sports journalist for the leading network in sports, ESPN, but now she's a fake woke activist, black man hating woman who apparently has a strong contempt for black babies and who is, of course, black herself. It's been 5 days after the controversial decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, which has caused outrage in the streets and on social media. Many people have voiced their arguments on the matter. Some agreed, some didn't. Personally, I didn't mind the decision and gave my reasons as to why this is actually beneficial in most cases. So you won't see someone like me connecting with Jemele Hill because she's on the opposing side of the abortion ban. But here's the thing. It's not the fact that she's for women having abortions that bothers me. It's her specific reason to, quote, justify women getting abortions. Her justification for murdering. Yes, I deem abortion to be an act of murder. Her justification for murdering a baby that didn't ask to be here, her justification is selfishness. I'm reminding you that this is on the card as Jaron Mays versus Vanessa Williams. She recently came out with an article on The Athletic yesterday morning, and she talked about her personal experience of having an abortion. It's something that she's never shared until now, and it's something she should have taken to her grave, in my opinion. In the beginning, she writes, I had an abortion when I was 26 years old. I was not raped. I wasn't the victim of incest. I was not in the midst of a life-threatening emergency. I simply had no desire to give birth to a child. She just cut straight to the chase. She admitted she wasn't raped, incest, or that her life was in danger. She simply just didn't feel like having a baby. Hold on, there's more in this article that people need to pay attention to. More quote, when I had my abortion, I was a sports journalist at the Detroit Free Press. Free Press. I was financially able to support a child. I have no doubt that my family would have been present for me. The man I was involved with at the time would have provided support. His family would have been there for us too. Yeah, she's just checking all the boxes, isn't she? However, I didn't see a long-term future with him. And given that my mother and father never married, and I knew their tumultuous history very well, I didn't want to bring a child into an unstable relationship. Guys, she just shot herself in the foot 4 times. 1, she had a job to support herself and the baby. 2, her family would have provided support. 3, she had a man who would have supported her mentally, physically, and financially. 4, his parents would have provided extra support. She had all these valuable resources in her arsenal to properly nurture a child. But due to her lack of selflessness, that baby was seen as nothing more than a nuisance. She goes on to say this: besides, my career meant everything to me. I was pursuing my dream of being a sports journalist. I understood clearly that having a child would have drastically limited the future I saw for myself. Parenting would be difficult to fit into my lifestyle because as a college beat reporter, I was on the road for nearly 8 months a year covering Michigan State football and basketball. The Spartans men's basketball program was turning into a powerhouse and had won the NCAA championship in 2000. That gave me the chance to cover a team that was nationally prominent. That experience, I hoped, might get me that much closer to my goal, which at the time was to become a senior writer for Sports Illustrated. Whoa. I didn't want to sacrifice my body or devote my time to raising a child. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted the freedom to live wherever I wanted and to navigate my career without having to factor a child into my plans. Jamel is full of... She admitted earlier that she had full-blown support, etc. But despite all that access to support that some women with children would dream of having, she still considered that baby a hindrance to her life. And for what? So she can have a white superstar tight end like Rob Gronkowski. I'm not going to read the rest of this. Oh, yeah. That baby of yours would have been a real hindrance to all of the fun you're having with these white athletes. Being a mammy was more important than being a mommy. And that's why she killed her baby. And I suspect that there are stories like this all over the border world. Does this kind of fit into what I just read? It's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. That's Vanessa Williams, one of the leaders of the pro-abortion game here on Guam. So, I guess, the only way you can walk away from these things is some of these ambitions are so tempting that people think it's worth to kill for them. This is really disappointing.
Just the basic beginning of life begins in the womb. And if you don't have that foundation, what is everything else? What is the credibility of any of your other activism if you can't even protect from the very beginning?
Really?
And that's what makes this all crazy, is that you can't say one and be for another. It has to be from the beginning.
Yeah. Regardless of the other temptations that life might put in front of you. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to kill if it's worth it. If there's something really important that you can gain from doing the killing.
And at the risk of being accused of being a mansplainer, we have two genders. We have two sexes, male and female. Only one gender can nurture and carry a kid to fruition. That gift of being able to do that, ought to be cherished and revered, and not to be tossed aside as some sort of side job, or some people even call it an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Like it just happens. This should be celebrated, and this is an attack on, if you want to talk about attack on feminism, abortion is an attack on feminism.
Absolutely. Now, the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, probably my least favorite Supreme Court justice of all time, said that Roe should not have been decided on the right of privacy. It should have been decided on equal protection basis, because men don't have to bear children and women do. In order to make it fair, women have to be able to kill babies inside their bodies.
Conversely, we should be allowed to kill babies inside of bodies too.
Well, we don't have to carry them. So, when you really scrape the paint and varnish off this, it comes down to this: women women bear children. Men don't bear children. Men are essential in the creation process. Men don't bear children. It's just so unfair. And because it's so unfair, it's like the lady at the Guam Chamber of Commerce say, we have to have a 5% set off on government contracts to level the playing field. We have to be able to kill babies in order to bring fairness back into the game. And again, people are able to say, well, it's a woman's right to choose. What about bodily autonomy? Yeah. I wish I didn't have to talk about this stuff all the time, but it has to be talked about. And people have to realize what it is that we really are talking about here. We're not talking about some high-flown principles that we cover up with polite vocabulary like, well, you're pro-life and I'm pro-choice, so we'll just agree to disagree about that. No, we won't. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong, and I'm right. And you're advocating evil, and I'm not. Not because I'm so great. Not because I'm so moral, but because I'm not so stupid. Okay, going on. The next item I have on the card here, let's go to Wrigley Field.
Candid, The Point, and the Guam Daily Post are proud to present another Platform 2022 debate. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Lieutenant Governor candidate Sabrina Salas Matanani. Phil Leon Guerrero and Montesilva Tyron will present topics and issues of concern to every Guamanian. July 20th at 6 p.m. everywhere. Broadcast, simulcast, and webcast on Facebook, Candid News, and on the air at 93.3 FM and on KGTF. Platform 2022 from Candid, the Guam Daily Post, and 93.3 The Point.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Wrigley Field for the 7th inning stretch, and I just saw something on the on Facebook that's going to cause me to not go straight to Wisconsin. I'm going to go back to the Z. He always makes the sign of the Z. Now, we run this video every Monday of Paul Zerzan, who is as mild and polite as anything you could ever want to see, and Hope Cristobal. Even I, as much as I like to play with vocabulary, am at a loss to describe exactly Hope Cristobal's performance in her screen test. It's nasty. It's profane, not in the sense that she's using bad words, but it's profane. It's awful. And Zerzan does nothing but just stand there with his water bottle and slowly walk away. Okay. Now, here's what Peter, are you looking for a job as a reporter over at the Guam Daily Post? Because here's what Peter says, to be fair, I've been present at public meetings where I saw the same vitriol out of Paul Zerzan. He had to be physically removed. Now, what's fair about that?
Apparently he called somebody a colonizer.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this video. We've seen how Hope acted. We saw how Paul Zerzan acted. Now, Peter Santos comes along and says, to be fair. Paul Zerzan has done some things too. You haven't seen them. So this will even it out. This makes what Hope did less onerous than what we watched on the video. I don't see any fairness there at all. I see almost the same thing as the Daily Post. Where's that story? Yeah, I see almost the same thing as this. That we take something that is not news. If it had been reported in today's paper, yeah, it would have been news. We take something that's not news and we pull it up and we throw it out in order to defend somebody who the video speaks for itself. That's not fair. That's not fair, repeat. And please don't repeat it. All right, next, let me see what else I got here for comments. Okay, so I'm going to go to Wisco versus Harvesters. This ran in Town Hall. Wisconsin Supreme Court proves what we all knew about the 2020 election. It's been more than a year since the 2020 presidential election, with a partnership between voter integrity organizations and Republican state legislatures. We have more proof than ever that while there may not have been widespread election fraud, according to the technical definition of the term, there were, in fact, widespread violations of election law. I would advise anybody when talking about elections, don't use the word fraud. It comes out of your mouth so easily, but it's a hard word to deal with. It's a hard word for lawyers. If you don't know the meaning of the word scienter, then don't use the word fraud. I could cite you to the rule of civil procedure that talks about fraud. It's just not a good word to use. You can use irregularities, etc., but don't use the word fraud. Yeah, so this article says, we have more proof than ever that while there may not have been widespread election, quote, fraud, according to the technical definition of the term, there were, in fact, widespread violations of election law. This week, the Wisconsin Supreme Court proved just that. In a 4-3 ruling, the majority opinion explained how the state's use of unmanned ballot drop boxes in the 2020 elections was a violation of election law. Ballot drop boxes are illegal under Wisconsin statutes. An absentee ballot must be returned by mail, or voter must personally deliver it to the municipal clerk at the clerk's office or a designated alternate site, the opinion states. Wisconsin voters allege they have suffered an injury in fact to their right to vote. As the Wisconsin voters argue, voters are entitled to have elections in which they participate administered properly under the law. We agree. If the right to vote is to have any meaning at all, elections must be conducted according to law. Throughout history, tyrants have claimed electoral victory via elections conducted in violation of governing law. The right to vote presupposes the rule of law governs elections. If elections are conducted outside the law, people have not conferred their consent on the government. Such elections are unlawful and the results are illegitimate. In January, a court in Pennsylvania found similar violations of election law in the Commonwealth, casting doubt on the legitimacy of votes cast by mail. A court declared Friday that Pennsylvania's expansive 2-year-old mail-in voting law violates the state constitution. The Associated Press reported at the time just over 2.5 million people voted under the law's expansion of mail-in voting in the 2020 presidential election, most of them Democrats, out of 6.9 million cast. Last summer, the Georgia legislature passed the Election Integrity Act of 2021, barring ballot harvesting and limiting ballot box use to early voting locations and hours. The measures were implemented to bolster election integrity and diffuse potential fraud in future elections. In December, new legislation was introduced to ban the use of ballot drop boxes completely. An election in North Carolina was overturned because of ballot harvesting, and also in New Jersey relating to ballot harvesting schemes. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said during a speech this year, this should be illegal nationwide. No one should be between the voter and the election official, especially partisan actors. Last July, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to uphold a new law banning ballot harvesting in the Grand Canyon state. Today is a big win for election integrity safeguards in Arizona and across the country. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich said after the victory, "Fair elections are the cornerstone of our republic, and they start with rational laws that protect both the right to vote and the accuracy of results. History and bipartisan studies show ballot harvesting and mass mail-in voting leads to fraud. We also know the use of these tactics violated the law during the 2020 presidential election. To reiterate the opinion from the Wisconsin Supreme Court this week, if elections are conducted outside the law, people have not conferred their consent on the government. Such elections are unlawful and the results are illegitimate." So I've talked about this before, and the Democrats are all saying, well, you know, all of these lawsuits went nowhere. And I've explained that election challenges are extremely difficult cases to bring because the timetable is so short. If you file your suit too early, your case is not ripe, and the court is going to throw it out. If you file your case too late, the case is moot, and the court is going to throw it out. So let's say that you become aware of all of these irregularities on election night, and you bring your suit, say, within the next couple of days. You got to move it right along. There isn't time for a lot of pretrial discovery. So the courts are just not set up to handle illegal election procedures. And under the best of circumstances, even the 2000 election, you remember hanging chads and all that kind of stuff. So even under the best of circumstances. Well, this time around we had the perfect storm because we had the so-called Wuhan virus emergency. So we have the Electoral Count Act, we have the Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, and it tells you how elections are supposed to be conducted. State legislature sets the rules, not the Election Commission, not the state Supreme Court, not the governor of the state, not Mark Zuckerberg and his Zuckbucks, not all of the guys from the Lincoln Project that were so proud of what they did. They wrote it up in Time magazine. None of those things. But all of those things happened. So I don't remember which one it was, but one state sent out absentee ballots to everybody. People, you didn't have to ask for one. They just send you one. So you could come in and vote, or you could fill out your absentee and put it in the drop box. So the election commissions, governors, and others who had no business doing anything with state law did all this stuff. Now, I read somewhere, and I probably should have hung on to it, that less than 40,000 votes in 6 key battleground states, if they had gone the other way, Trump would have won and Biden would have lost. And there were all these places where the law was not followed. Now, if I were presenting one of these before the court, as a general principle, if you're going to challenge an election, you have to say the margin of victory was 2,000 votes. I'm challenging it based on the fact that 2,100 of those votes should have gone the other way, weren't cast for the candidate, on and on. You have to be able to show that if you prevail in court, that the election would go your way. Otherwise, it's not justiciable. But I think there's a really good argument that when you have a situation where state law says, let's simplify it, state law says no absentee, no ballots, no mail-in, no drop boxes, etc., and the state election commission says we're going to do absentee because of COVID, you wouldn't have to determine how many votes were involved because you can't. Once the absentees are dumped in with the rest, they lose their identity. So I think the argument is that if you don't follow the law, it's not an election, kind of like with this article. It's just not an election, and nobody is elected. You could do a do-over. And I think that if that had been advocated, and then another factor, of course, our election system is fragmented. Where I grew up, the Secretary of State runs the elections, but he doesn't actually do the elections. It's municipal officials. In a city, it's the city clerk. In a town, which is a little rural government, it's the town clerk. So it's all over the map, and in order to pull together enough stuff to do a lawsuit, the fact that the lawsuits that were filed didn't go Trump's way, to me means absolutely nothing. And I think what happened here in Wisconsin is unfortunately the norm. And if these cases get to court, there'll be a lot of these. Now, unfortunately, at this point, there's nothing that anybody can do about it. There are some people who say, well, even in Wisconsin, what should happen is that the Wisconsin legislature should decertify the election and say that Biden didn't get our 10 electoral votes. That won't work. Finality is absolutely important in election. What happens on January 6th is it. It can't be challenged anywhere else. You can't bring a suit to set it aside. You can't get the House to come back and try again. What happens on January 6th is it. And that's why that 150-plus members of Congress that were willing to challenge the results in the various states was so important, because we could have gotten at some of this stuff then. But unfortunately, mob rule took over. I just don't see how Trump could have seen it in his interest for the mob rule to moot out the possibility of the challenge that could have, worked for him. Could have, could not have. Okay, so much for that. We got to head for Churchill Downs. When I walk out of Churchill Downs after the race is over, I'm going to look for a caller who really wants to make his mark.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pika Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning shows.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-RGIO.
Okay, so here we are, Churchill Downs, and the horses, and they're off. It's cabbage by a head. Gum sticking to the rail. And a caller that wants to make a mark on line 1. Go for it, Mark.
Hey, Uncle Bob. So, they always have the different news stories where they kept saying that, Trump had, there was no evidence that there was anything wrong with the election, and all these state courts coming down saying, yeah, you guys basically violated state law in conducting the election with the rules that you guys made up. I'd say that's evidence that there was something fishy going on, and there's a good chance that he was ripped off. So, but yeah, you're right. The January 6th thing was a debacle and just never should have happened.
For sure.
Yep. So I really love hearing the way you dissect all these different things, and just love listening and calling in when I feel like I need to, make my mark.
Well, you made your mark again today, Mark. So thanks again for chiming in. Yeah, Mark made his mark. Okay, so Churchill Downs, and let's see, I got one more item on the card here. A mad black woman versus Roe. Okay, she was subsequently dragged on social media. You're a little bit of a social media guy. How does a person get dragged on social media, Jose?
I'm not sure. I think you get a lot of heat. You get a lot of negative commenting,
criticism,
but more of the ad hominem type,
slurs. Yeah. Okay. Many people took to social media to voice their opinion about the overturning of Roe on Friday, June 24. With just about any topic, there were mixed reactions. Some were furious about the decision. Others celebrated it. One of those that celebrated the decision was the beautiful and talented actress Kimberly Elise. Elise is best known for her roles in Tyler Perry's Diary of a Mad Black Woman and John Q., where she starred alongside Denzel Washington. Well, after Elise shared her post, social media dragged her. Elise shared a Bible verse on her Instagram, Psalm 139, 13 and 14. The post had a photo of a child in it and a caption. Millions of babies will be saved from death by abortion to the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Hallelujah, glory be to God. Elise said in the post. The Shade Room got a hold of Elise first and flooded her post with comments. They tearing Kimberly Elise up in her comments, LMFAO. What does that mean, Jose?
Laughing my woo-ha off.
Okay. Somebody said they see why Charlie was dragging your ass, one post said. Mr. Charlie, I think that's a white person, right? Yeah. Charles, oh, wait a minute. Charles is a fictional character in Diary of a Mad Black Woman who played Elise's husband and was abusive. Then, of course, Twitter had to join in. Kimberly Elise, being a pro-lifer, was not on my 2022 bingo card. Folks are saying Kimberly Elise can have an opinion. Your opinion should only govern you. Celebrating policy that revokes the rights of millions is not an opinion. It's bad politics. No one cares about your opinion. It's your politics that's a problem. It got so bad that Elise or her team decided to turn comments off on the post. In my opinion, this is just one of those situations where very few people will agree with one another, and both sides will have arguments to back up their claims. However, when you post something on social media talking about a topic that's as sensitive as Roe versus Wade, you better be ready for everything that comes with it. I don't think Elise was fully ready for the backlash. What are your thoughts? Talk to me. Okay, so that was posted on this page, and I think, of course, Kimberly Elise is exactly right, but I have to admit that I'm biased in her favor. First of all, I think Tyler Perry is a genius. He has come up, with a formula for making movies that touch on sensitive subjects but don't anger anybody, and he's able to make millions and millions of dollars doing it. Now, this one that is mentioned here, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, I don't know how I wound up watching it. The title is not the kind of thing that appeals to me. I didn't see anything in there about...
It's like, was that a specific search, Bob?
Yeah, I didn't see anything in there about cowboys or soldiers or Marines, so you probably went, why the hell would Bob watch that? But for some reason, I think I probably tuned in after it started, and I watched it and then went back and caught the beginning later on. But it's a great story, and it's a great story because it's a great story. It isn't this tired old thing about the black experience and how society is always beating up on that whole thing. It's about a man and a woman. The man is a lawyer. He marries this woman, and the man is what we would have called back in the 40s and 50s a cad, C-A-D, cad. A cad, an example of a cad would be someone who asks a girl to go to the prom with him. She goes out and buys her prom dress and gets all ready to go to the prom. And then he finds out that somebody he likes better will go with him. So he stands up the first girl, goes to the prom, and after the prom drives by her house honking the horn so that she can see her riding in the front seat of his car. That's a cad, right? Well, that's what this guy was. He was fooling around. He had a couple of children with other women. He was really mean to her. He treated her very, very badly. He was fairly successful as a lawyer, so they had money, but she just got the fuzzy end of the lollipop all the time. So finally she had enough, and she files a suit for divorce. And, of course, he doesn't take this very well at all. You can just imagine what happens. Well, unlucky for him, he hurts his back, and he's paralyzed. He's bedridden and paralyzed. He has no use of his body from his hips on down. So she takes him in, and she nurses him back to health. And when he's finally able to move, and in the process he loses his practice, all the people he thought were his friends were out of there in a heartbeat as soon as they could see he didn't have any money and he was in trouble. So she nurses him back to health, and then as soon as he's ready to go, she hands him the final divorce decree, and that's it. And I thought that was so great, that a story about a woman that had character, values, and ethics in that situation would come, and it didn't, it could have been black people, it could have been white people, it could have been Native Americans, it could have been Pacific Islanders. It was just a great story, and it was told so well. And I just really liked it. So when I saw Kimberly Elise in this article, you got to know which side I came down on really quick. Okay, so we got about 5 more minutes to go. I got another one here that I can start, but I'm not going to be able to finish, but I'll pick it up again tomorrow. This is some idiot with an unpronounceable name versus the Holocaust. President Joe Biden on Friday repeated an unverified single-source claim made in various media outlets. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I already covered that one. Okay, I got somebody on the line here. That's probably going to take me to the finish line. I got Johnny Utah. Johnny Utah wants to talk about Joe Manchin. What can you tell me about Joe Manchin, Jose?
He is the ultimate Mancinian candidate.
Yeah, if you saw the movie The Manchurian Candidate, yeah, he's not the Manchurian Candidate. He's the Mancinian Candidate. Right, Johnny Utah? Right, Johnny Utah?
Judge Bob.
Right?
Hi, Judge Bob.
Say again?
So, hello, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. I asked you a question. Could you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, answer the question.
What's the question?
I guess you didn't hear the question. Jose and I were talking about Joe Manchin, and Jose titled the show today. What's the title, Jose?
Yeah, I'm gonna butcher again. It's the
Joe
what the
Mancini
U.S.
candidate.
There you go.
Yeah. So Jose, and before I put you on, I said, so what we've got here is not a Manchurian candidate, but a Mancinian candidate. And I said to you, right, Johnny Utah? And I didn't get an answer to my question.
I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Well, when you call a show, you got to start listening right away. There's no break.
Yes,
there's no break at the beginning of the call.
I just have a quick question about Mancini. What is it that the Democrats can do to him, and as for discipline, because they don't like the way he politics? He hasn't done anything wrong.
What they can do to him is primary him, but I think they realize that would be futile because he's so popular in his home state, and that's what makes him so powerful. They can slander him, they can slam him, and they can say, yeah, he doesn't want to go with Biden's energy plan because West Virginia is solid coal, and Joe is running on all that, and is running as the big coal candidate, so he's just supporting big coal. That's what he's about.
They can run an interview from Matt Herman.
Yeah, or they can run an interview from Matt Herman.
No, so they can't sanction him or remove him from committees or anything?
No.
Good.
No, they can't.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of the talk I keep hearing over the scuttlebutt is people want him to become a Republican, but I think he should just stay where he's at, kind of like San Nicolas, be a moderate Democrat and try to restore that party back to some integrity.
He's the inside man right now. Thanks a lot for calling, Johnny. I got to say goodbye to the president. Good to talk to you.
Adios. All right.
Okay, let's go, Brandon.
Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Mass shooting at an American mall. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. At least 3 people were killed and 2 others injured following a shooting at a busy mall in Greenwood, Indiana, Sunday evening. Police say a man carrying a rifle opened fire in the Greenwood Park Mall food court.
We have what appears to be one shooter. It looks to be an adult male.
Greenwood Police Chief Jim Eisen. Police say the suspect was shot and killed by a 22-year-old armed civilian. A Texas House committee releasing their findings regarding law enforcement's response to the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde. The report says that 376 law enforcement officials responded to the shooting, and it took them over an hour to confront the gunman.
The report says if you're not willing to put the lives of the people you serve, of those children, before your own, in my view, you should find another job.
Eva Guzman, former state Supreme Court justice in Uvalde. The report also says that law enforcement prioritized their own safety and did not follow their active shooter training. The shooting killed 19 children and 2 teachers. According to a new Fox poll, President Biden's approval numbers are down. Fox's Aisha Hasni has more from the White House.
The president returned from that controversial fist bump only to face mounting domestic issues here at home. That Build Back Better agenda, it's in a lot of trouble. Last week, Senator Joe Manchin said no to climate and energy funding before the August recess, blaming rising inflation. Now, as inflation rises, Biden's approval rating sinks. A new Fox News poll out today shows it is now sitting at a dismal 40%. And when it comes to the economy, 55% say the president has made matters worse.
The Biden administration says that inflation is high globally.